When you think of Superman, who or what is the first thing to come to mind? Christopher Reeve's iconic Superman movies, Superman the Animated Series, Superman Returns, Henry Cavill's Superman, Superman and Lois? Regardless of your answer, there's one certain thing. I know for a fact that video games don't come to mind when you think of Superman. Honestly, that's probably a good thing. When you take a look back at what Superman has achieved in the gaming space, well, it's not much. Why? It's because there are really only two Superman games that are genuinely known or spoken about. There's Superman 64, this is notoriously known to be one of the worst video games ever created. We also have Superman Returns tie-in video game that sucked as well. Now, what if I told you there is another Superman game that most people seem to not know about, or at least don't talk about for whatever reason, that existed on GameCube and the PS2? That's right, it's time to finally shine a light onto Superman Shadow of Apokolips.
How do you like that, Superman?
How do you like this, Metallo?
To start from the top, Superman Shadow of Apokolips isn't a terrible game, shockingly. Despite the title of this video, I don't hate this game, nor do I think this game is as bad as Superman 64 or Superman Returns tie-in video game. In fact, there are actual things to like in Superman Shadow of Apokolips. Firstly, I love the tone of this game, and I love how the characters in this game are written. The tone of this game basically makes it feel like an adaptation of Superman the Animated Series, which gives it that nostalgic feel and makes you feel like you're playing a live Saturday morning cartoon. Now normally, that wouldn't be a good thing because it could potentially make the game feel incredibly dated all around in the long run, but that's not the case with this game. This direction and tone for this game works for all of the right reasons, and actually makes the game worth playing through, even though it admittedly does have a lot of flaws.
We have now deployed the arsenal, sire. Everything you have specified is in place. It is a brilliant strategy, Master.
The brilliance is in the victory, Gander. And now it is time to test the capabilities of this Earthman. Even with these weapons, I am curious if this mortal can actually complete his task. The eradication of the last son of Krypton.
Keep still while I feed.
Lois and Jimmy have taken the planet's chopper over to LexCorp. Metallo's resurfaced and he's tearing up the place. If you hurry, you might be able to interview the cleanup crew. Kent? Well, I can't say he's not enthusiastic.
Talk about tough interviews. Nice work, Superman.
You're always there when we need you, Superman.
Just a matter of being in the right place at the right time, Jimmy.
You've saved the city again, Superman. Don't you ever get any sleep?
Not much.
As for the characters specifically, there's so much flair and personality to them when they pop up in cutscenes or during boss fights. They're entertaining and funny, they maintain your interest because they all bring out the best in Superman. Whether they're over-the-top characters like Livewire, or very calm but carry a strong presence like Lex Luthor, it's hard to not like the cast of Superman Shadow of Apokolips. Sure, some characters aren't really memorable at all, like Parasite, who just kind of shows up as a boss fight for no reason whatsoever, but most characters do stand out. For instance, Darkseid is barely in this game at all. He literally only has 2 cutscenes in total, and yet those 2 cutscenes give him a strong, menacing presence that makes you question how far he's willing to go to try and bring down Superman. By the end of the game, his final cutscene makes you question how safe Superman is despite Superman saving the day. It makes you wonder what the future holds and what the long-term plan is for Darkseid. If a character like that, with only 2 cutscenes, can maintain that much of a presence with such little screen time, that's how you know these characters were treated right. That's how you know there's so much love and care put into each and every character, regardless of how big or small they are. Of course, this naturally brings me to Superman himself, who is the standout character in this game. There's so much love put into how Superman is written. Even though Superman only really gets to shine in cutscenes or when he has a funny one-liner during a boss fight or cutscene, he genuinely stands out as the person that the people of Metropolis can look to for hope or inspiration. He feels like the type of hero that would stop whatever he's doing to save whomever or whatever is in need. That's how much of a positive presence he carries in this game. That presence is so strong that it almost allows you to feel how pure of a person Clark Kent is, to the point where even if you're not having fun with the game, you're at least having fun seeing Superman in action. As someone who loves Batman, loves Batman's mythos, and has covered every live-action Batman film, this was the first piece of Superman media that has made me genuinely care about Superman. That's how great of a character Superman is in this game. Along with how the characters are written and the tone of Superman Shadow of Apokolips, another positive thing about this game is the art style, or the visual style, whichever you prefer to call it. Superman Shadow of Apokolips essentially feels like a comic book brought to life, and that's thanks to the intended choice of basing this game's art direction on Superman the Animated Series. The simplicity of this game's art direction works because it lets you buy into what you're doing throughout this game, and because of that, you're not distracted by any failed attempt at realism. Whether you're getting people to their safety after beating up enemies, using your heat vision and super breath to protect the people of Metropolis, or facing off against a random character for a boss fight, all of it feels believable because of the art style. If this game went for a more realistic art style or visual style, as we've seen with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man tie-in games, Catwoman's tie-in game, or even Superman Returns tie-in game, it wouldn't have worked at all for this game. Think about it, you're playing as Superman, you're flying around these semi-open world levels and completing different tasks during this game thanks to your superpowers. You're basically indestructible. The best way to depict a character like Superman in a video game is within a world that feels like a comic book brought to life. Why? It's because then you feel like you're playing in a playground that is specifically designed for Superman. You're not distracted by what should work, how people should react, or the logic of a world that uses realism with an indestructible character like Superman. That's why the tone, art direction, and writing all collectively work in favor of Superman Shadow of Apokolips. These 3 key aspects of this game do so much heavy lifting, and genuinely pushed me to want to complete each level the further I got into the game. Unfortunately though, despite these 3 key things working in favor of this game, Shadow of Apokolips has a lot of flaws. And this is where my frustration sets in. Superman Shadow of Apokolips isn't very good. As much as I hate to say it, this game is incredibly repetitive, to the point where it's on the same level as another old superhero game I've reviewed on this channel a couple of months ago, Aquaman Battle for Atlantis. For context, that Aquaman game is one of the worst games I've ever played, and literally every mission is the exact same. Is this Superman game as bad as Aquaman Battle for Atlantis? No, not really. That game sucks, and I do recommend checking out that video about Aquaman Battle for Atlantis if you're curious. The problem though with Superman Shadow of Apokolips is that nearly every mission in this game is identical. You're teleported to a mini sandbox level, you're told to do minimal repetitive tasks, and then the mission is over, only for it to happen again during the next level. However, each level gets increasingly more frustrating because the tasks get worse for no reason, and you begin to rapidly realize one very big realization: Superman doesn't feel very super in this game. Superman can fly, Superman can use heat vision, Superman has super breath that can take out fires. Superman also doesn't take pretty much any damage from a majority of the enemies in this game, and yet playing as him is somehow incredibly frustrating. I fully acknowledge that the game was released in 2002, and I truly don't want to dismiss that or downplay that at all, but playing as Superman sucks more often than it doesn't. The way Superman controls himself is so bad that it almost highlights a very big problem with Superman as a whole, at least when it comes to video games. It is incredibly hard to make him fun to play as. There are so many things that you have to nail for Superman to feel perfect to control and perfect to play as, but nailing every single one of those things basically feels like you're playing Superman Mission Impossible. His flight controls are fine until you have to make a turn in which you have to stop flying and use the C stick to try and make a clean turn, except that never works at all. Even with the option to lock onto something like a tank or a boss, it's still hard to make a turn while flying as Superman. Superman has the abilities I previously mentioned, and yet more often than not, you're better off just spam punching enemies or doing a super punch, which is just locking onto an enemy and flying at them, causing Superman to punch them. And because of this lackluster gameplay, you just feel like you've flown around and punched a bunch of random things for a couple of hours with a game that has Superman as the main character. The game gets the source material, and the game understands how to make Superman a likable character, but the game felt like it didn't know how to make the gameplay loop satisfying at all. And that's why this frustrates me so much. Playing as Superman and being told, go beat these 10 enemies up and lift these civilians to this specific spot really isn't that fun at all. Neither is go do this randomly timed mission that requires you to get a box and place it on a platform 4 separate times in under 5 minutes. For everything this game gets right about Superman, it's so sad to say that this game didn't understand how to utilize Superman's abilities interestingly. This shows because you can tell they didn't know how to give Superman a weakness, so their best idea was exactly what I showed you guys a few moments ago. Every time Superman gets shot by a tank or a rocket launcher, he goes flying like he weighs nothing at all. He just falls, crashes, and burns after getting hit by rockets or a random gun that shoots beams. And as if things couldn't get worse, there are no health packs at all in these levels. Instead, Superman has health regeneration, but it is incredibly slow. I didn't even realize that this was a thing early on, and when I did, I would just fly to a corner and stand around waiting for my health to come back. Now, you might be wondering, what about the enemies? What are they doing while you stand around in a corner waiting? Well, guess what? they're standing around too. They're just waiting for you to come back, knock them out, and complete the level. Just a small fun fact. There's a part in the game where text constantly pops up after beating up prisoners or inmates to tell you that Superman didn't kill those enemies. Why? I have no idea, but I thought it was hilarious and thought that it'd be worth mentioning, cause why not? Again, I fully acknowledge that these problems are due to the technology and process of game development at the time, but it's still a major flaw that's worth highlighting. As for a problem that probably could have been fixed and wasn't limited by the technology at the time of this game's development, we need to talk about the story. In all honesty, it's not very good. It's weak and leaves a lot to be desired. The story of this game is that Lex Luthor is working with Metallo to bring down Superman. That's it. The game attempts to expand on it by including side characters Livewire and Parasite, but in reality, their appearances in this game don't really make any sense. They don't add anything to the story. Instead, they feel like they're only there because those were the only characters that DC gave these developers the green light with. They don't feel like they're there because Lex included them in their plan, or because Lex is playing the role of a puppeteer by manipulating these characters without them realizing it. Instead, Livewire and Parasite just feel like over-glorified cameos in an episode of a superhero show like Superman the Animated Series, obviously, or a random issue of a comic book run more than anything else. Contextually, these characters don't work for me, despite their phenomenal voice acting and designs, because they're just random boss fights. There's no setup for them, and no real reason they should actually be in this game, if I'm being entirely honest. You're kinda just tossed into these boss fights after you complete certain missions, so it makes it feel like this game has this mindset of, you're playing a Superman game, so here are some random characters in Superman's mythos to fight. The boss fights themselves aren't even that fun nor worth seeing through either. If anything, Livewire's boss fight is just obnoxious because for some unknown reason, she has 3 different phases for her boss fight. Livewire's boss fight was quite literally the only obnoxious part in Shadow of Apokolips because she was able to stun lock Superman with her abilities and hit 3 different electric abilities at the same time. She would hit Superman, which led to Superman falling, crashing, and burning, and then somehow would hit 2 more additional abilities without any cooldown being needed whatsoever. It made 0 sense. And this, of course, would lead to the most riveting gameplay of all time. Yeah, I literally did this multiple times during the second phase of her boss fight, considering the only ability that works against her is Superman's heat vision. I just fly in circles, over and over and over again, until I got my health back. It's safe to say that I was shocked by how annoying Livewire's fight mechanics were. Pun intended, of course. Now, on the subject of Parasite, where do I begin with this character? He was alright, I guess. His boss fight felt far more pointless than Livewire, considering he has only 1 phase and there is only 1 thing needed to beat him. All you have to do throughout that fight is super punch him again and again and again until his health bar comes to an end. There is nothing else to do in his boss fight, which is kind of hilarious to think about, considering Metallo, who's the final boss of this game, has 3 phases for his boss fight, just like Livewire. It kind of makes no sense, but it's hilarious since this game crams all 3 of these fights toward the very end of the game. So you go from a 3-phase boss fight to a 1-phase boss fight to another 3-phase boss fight, all back to back to back, without any reason or context whatsoever. It just happens. And by the time I beat Metallo, whose boss fight was perfectly fine for a final boss of an early 2000s video game, I was more so ready to be finished with Superman Shadow of Apokolips rather than appreciating the journey I took as Superman throughout this game. Ultimately, Superman Shadow of Apokolips is a mixed bag, but I'd be lying if I said that I hate this game, or that I didn't have fun playing a Superman game for the first time ever. I wanted to love this game, and I honestly think I could have if I grew up with this game, or if the game handled utilizing Superman and his abilities better by making much more interesting missions. It's just that it's ultimately bogged down by bad controls, bad missions, and uninteresting gameplay. The reason I can overlook the mediocre story is that I just wanted the characters to have a little more setup to give them that extra boost needed to really allow them to live up to their potential. However, I can't overlook the fact that controlling Superman is incredibly annoying at times, and the fact that the missions aren't good at all, to the point where I can draw a comparison to Aquaman Battle for Atlantis. If I can draw that comparison, that's how you know the missions in Superman Shadow of Apokolips are rough. I mean, come on, there's a random stealth mission that makes sense contextually, story-wise, but breaks away from the entire format of the game. It just felt like they wanted to attempt to show they could make a Metal Gear Solid-esque type of level for whatever reason. I'm telling you, the missions are rough in this game. With that being said, I do still recommend playing Superman Shadow of Apokolips if you can. This game still has so much going for it. The music, the voice acting, the tone of the game, the characters, Superman himself, and so much more. I'd, again, be lying if I said that I didn't have fun playing this game for the first time ever just for this video. Just getting that small dose of that early 2000s Saturday morning cartoon nostalgia made a playthrough of this game worth my time. Even though Shadow of Apokolips isn't a particularly great game, I'm happy to say that it absolutely left me wanting to visit even more superhero video games from back in the day. And you know what? I guess it's time that I'd finally do so. Superhero movies, shows, and video games. The I Don't Beat Games way. You know what? That has a bit of a ring to it.